From the moment 17-year-old Elias Rivera stepped onto the stage of Ireland's Got Talent 2025, the room shifted, like air tightening right before a storm. Backstage, contestants whispered about him, not because he wore a thrift store leather jacket or because his hair curled like it had borrowed a page from the 1950s, but because he carried himself with a soft, almost fragile confidence that made you wonder what kind of story lived behind those shy brown eyes. Simon Cowell leaned forward, sensing something unusual, but even he didn't know that the boy standing in front of him had not come to win a show, he had come to honor a promise. Elias had grown up in a small barangay in the Philippines, where his grandmother, Lola Celeste, had been his best friend, his music teacher, and the reason he ever dared to sing. Every night, she played Elvis Presley songs while sweeping their tiny living room, humming softly as if music kept the walls from breaking apart. "Mijo, the world needs voices that heal," she would tell him, pressing her wrinkled hand against his. "When you sing, sing with kindness first." But last year, when a sudden illness took her life, Elias stopped singing altogether, until he discovered a sealed envelope she had hidden inside her old radio. Inside was a worn photograph of Elvis performing in 1972 and a handwritten note that read, "One day, sing for the world. Not for applause, sing for someone who needs hope." He clutched that note as he flew to Ireland, where his mother worked long shifts cleaning hotel rooms, her fingertips cracked and swollen, yet always warm when she touched his face and whispered, "Make Lola proud." Now, under the bright stage lights, Elias trembled. The audience leaned in. Simon raised an eyebrow. "So, who are you?" he asked. Elias hesitated, then breathed shakily. I'm here to keep a promise." A soft murmur rippled across the room. The music began, but instead of launching into a classic Elvis hit, Elias started with a low, haunting hum, a tune he had woven from memories of Lola's lullabies. Then, seamlessly, he shifted into "Can't Help Falling in Love," but not as Elvis had sung it. He sang it as a boy carrying grief, hope, and a whole world on his shoulders. His voice was warm velvet with a trembling edge, like innocence brushing against heartbreak. People stared, jaws parted. A woman in the front row covered her mouth as her eyes filled. Even Simon, famously hard to impress, blinked rapidly, leaning closer as though pieces of the past were rising from the stage itself. Halfway through the song, Elias did something unexpected. He stepped away from the microphone. The room held its breath. Without amplification, his raw, unfiltered voice filled the theater, fragile yet powerful. It wasn't a performance anymore. It was a prayer. In the world beyond the stage, a lonely father in the audience thought of his estranged daughter, a tired nurse remembered her own grandmother, a young couple clasped hands, reminded of how precious life was. Elias wasn't singing to be a star, he was singing to heal strangers he would never meet. When the last note quivered into silence, the auditorium remained still, as if afraid to break the moment. Then a voice cracked from the judge's table, Simon Cowell, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. I don't know what just happened," he whispered. "It's like you brought someone back to life." The crowd erupted. People rose to their feet, tears streaming, cheering the boy who somehow sang with the soul of a legend and the heart of someone far kinder. Simon stood, breathless, and slammed the golden buzzer like a man who had forgotten what it felt like to believe in magic. Gold confetti rained down, but Elias didn't beam or shout with excitement. Instead, he closed his eyes, letting the falling glitter brush his cheeks like the soft, familiar touch of Lola's hand. As the stage crew rushed in and the audience roared, Elias stepped back, overwhelmed. The host placed an arm around him, but Elias whispered, "That wasn't for me. That was for her." Simon overheard and approached him gently, something rare in the world of bright lights and harsh critiques. "Elias," he said softly, "whatever promise you made, you kept it beautifully." The boy nodded, unable to speak, tears finally spilling. Later, when the cameras shut off and the theater emptied, Elias found a quiet corner backstage. There, he pulled out the worn note from Lola and smiled, an honest, hopeful smile. He realized something profound. He hadn't reincarnated Elvis. He had resurrected kindness, the kind that travels through generations, through music, through simple acts of courage. And in doing so, he had touched hearts far beyond anything he ever imagined. As he pressed the note to his chest, Elias whispered into the empty hallway, "We did it, Lola." The world outside buzzed with headlines calling him the Filipino teen who reincarnated Elvis, but Elias knew the truth. He was just a boy who had dared to sing with love. And in a world often desperate for hope, Sometimes that was enough to change everything.